If you were in my science class last year, you may remember that I made a video talking about ocean acidification. However, I really only looked into how ocean acidification affects coral reefs and the solution to this problem. I decided to take an even closer look on the effects ocean acidification has, not just on coral reefs, but on the entire food chain. Before I talk about how ocean acidification affects the food chain, I want to talk about how ocean acidification is created in the first place.
This is how.
So in this segment, I'm going to be playing a fossil fuel molecule. And what these molecules do is they float around the air and the atmosphere, but all good things have to come to an end, and eventually the ocean acts as a sponge and sucks up the molecule. And from there, it takes a turn to the worst. The molecule is trapped in the ocean and unable to go back into the atmosphere. When we burn fossil fuels, carbon dioxide is released into the air, and about 30% of this is released into the ocean. That's millions of tons mixed into the ocean every single year. The increase of carbon dioxide in the air is causing an increase of acidity within our oceans. The chemical reaction between the carbon and the seawater forms biocarbonate, also known as HCO3. Biocarbonate is soluble in water. It is also a polyatomic anion, which basically means it is an ion and it consists of many atoms. The reaction between the water and the biocarbonate forms hydrogen. After this reaction occurs, carbon combines with hydrogen to form bicarbonate, which has the chemical formula NaHCO3. NaHCO3 is necessary for digestion, but is not healthy when overpowered or overused. In this video, I want to talk about some of the animals on the food chain that ocean acidification directly affects. Some of these animals will include phytoplankton, sea otters, fish, and other marine animals. Although I will just be focusing on several animals today, every single animal in the ocean today is affected by the ocean acidification. The ocean absorbing carbon dioxide is caused by density differences between the ocean and the air. Otters. Otter. An otter is a smile with fur. Sea otters play a key role in maintaining healthy kelp levels along the California coast. Sea otters' diet consists of kelp and sea urchins, which have now absorbed carbon dioxide and is not good for the sea otter's digestive system. If otters were non-existent, kelp, clams, and sea urchins would be highly overpopulated. Not only does ocean acidification affect the food that the otters eat and how they can eat it, but it also affects the otters directly. According to a case study published in the Journal of Experimental Biology, the increasing pH levels in the ocean affects the maintained oxygen transports in fish and other marine wildlife, causing marine wildlife to die off at record rates. High acidity in the ocean changes the conditions of the fish's blood cells, a condition called acidosis. A shift in dominant fish species could have a major impact on the food web and on human fisheries. This proves the theory that a small change in pH can make a huge difference for both animals and plant survival within the ocean's environment. Similar to humans breathing in and out the same fluid in our atmosphere, marine biology does the same. The high acidity within our oceans changes marine animals' brain structures permanently. Acid also damages animals' neurotransmitters, which affects their cognitive behavior, which means how they interact with their same species and other species. Because of the high acidity rates, there is less amount of kelp, which means that there is less amount of kelp for the animals to eat. Because of this, the fish are hogging most of the kelp, and the otters don't get any. These diagrams show what a fish's organs look like before and after the effects of ocean acidification. This is before and this is after. As you can tell from before, there is no acid in the ocean, and the fish's body flow and blood circulation and respiratory system is acting how it should normally act. As you can see here, we have much more chemicals being impacted and added to the fish's respiratory system and other parts of the fish's body, and it's affecting its blood flow, its blood cells, heart rate, cognitive behavior, neurotransmitters, etc. Okay, so let's talk about the food chain. So what does the food chain look like, and what does it consist of in an oceanic ecosystem and environment for a minute? So obviously there's thousands and thousands of species of coral and plants and all these different kinds of shrimp and whatever type of species you have. And what I've done is just kind of narrowed it down and created my own food chain that kind of generalizes the animals that we will see in the ocean.
Plankton and coral.
Fish.
Shrimp and otters.
When one animal, such as phytoplankton, zooplankton, etc., is affected by the food chain, all the rest of the animals will be affected. Because coral and oysters and other animals with shells are being degraded by ocean acidification, and another animal comes along and eats that shell, it will be affected. Their respiratory system will definitely be affected, and so will their brain. And then another animal comes along and eats it, their brains will also be affected, and so on. This is a quote I found from a study packet from our atmosphere test. It says, the oceans act as a storage place by absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, aka a carbon sink. So yeah, that's what the ocean does. It kind of absorbs carbon dioxide and acts as a sink.
So a solution to this problem is windmills. They do cost a lot to make, but they use natural energy, the wind.